Yeah, no, that is
I call this meeting to order. This will be an open meeting and notice has been given to the public at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and by forwarding the complete agenda to the Common County Reporter and all other news media who have requested the same. Copies of the complete agenda are available for inspection at the office of the city administrator. Roll call.
Mayor Cliff Martin,
Here.
Gerald Anderson,
Here.
Dee Donlevy,
Here.
Bob LaFrance, Riley Soul,
Here.
Lori Stenstrup, Dan Zeller,
Here.
Attorney Powers.
Okay, number 3, invocation and pledge of allegiance by Alderperson Morgan.
We come together as a diverse group with unique perspectives and backgrounds, yet in this meeting, we are united by a shared purpose and vision. We pray for our grace to help set aside our differences, to forge connections of harmony and work together seamlessly. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, approval of agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve the agenda. Motion for approval of minutes as presented from city council and any special council meetings. Are there any questions or corrections that anyone sees?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second. Lori.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve the minutes as presented. Public input. Public input for the second time.
Mike Felt, 172 Luby Ave. I'd like to comment on agenda item 13B. I'm wondering, and I know you're not supposed to answer any questions, but this is, when the superintendent was rehired, he was rehired as a new employee. Now, 6 months later, he's receiving a $5,000 raise or recommended for a $5,000 raise and additional benefits being reinstated. I was on Public Works when he was recommended to be rehired, and I asked the question, would he be rehired as a new employee? And I think it sets a bad precedence to have a new hire receive a raise like this after only 6 months, when his predecessor requested an extra weeks of vacation and that was denied because it was setting a precedent. Now, the individual in question here actually quit on the city 3 times. And I believe the administrator even stated that when she saw his application come back in on, I believe, the 2nd round of interviews, she was actually a little angry because of the position he had put the city in. You can shake your head, I have it in my notes. So, quitting 3 times, gets rehired as a new employee because he wants to serve the city. And in that 6 months, now went out and applied for a different position in a different community. I think it's time that people know and take note of what's going on behind the scenes here with how things operate, and it doesn't doesn't look good to do something like this. Again, what's preventing Park and Rec Director for asking for the same thing or even more? I mean, it just, and that, when it happened, it was stated to be hired as a new employee to not set this precedent, and yet here we are 6 months later doing that. And I think it's a mistake. So I would recommend the council vote no on this agenda, agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public input? One more time, any other public input? Okay. Moving on to number 7, correspondence. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just following up on the correspondence from the committee, the whole meeting, doing a bit of a tourism update. There was a couple of things that I had mentioned, I'm gonna re-mention, and I had failed to mention a whole lot of things. So first, from the tourism committee, David Hipwell came in to our last meeting, and he wanted to let us know that he is offering banners, 4-foot by 4-foot banners. He is offering them for $36. There's several of them on the side of the pharmacy, if you want to see kind of what they look like. He's not doing it necessarily to promote exclusively his own artwork. In fact, he said anyone who wants a banner, if they talk to him, he can do a banner of anything. It doesn't have to be a Hipwell art piece. So I just wanted to let everyone know that he was putting it out there, that he's got these 4-foot by 4-foot banners. Again, you can take a look on the side of the pharmacy. If anyone's interested in those, he would be the person to contact for that. $36. He also was alerting us to the beautification of murals. He said if anyone wants to look into the Port Washington murals, he said they're just breathtaking. And then obviously anyone who's been in Green Bay, the Broadway district has got some really nice murals on the side of buildings, and we just thought that would be a cool thing if O'Connell got into that sort of thing, maybe teaming up with the local art program or something like that to see if we could maybe do something like that. He also reminded that that stuff is not necessarily permanent. It can be sandblasted off if it doesn't have the look that you were going for. So I felt I would just relay that message to everyone else. Also, just an update on some of the other things that were kind of in the works for us. We're trying to get a visitor center kiosk at the Quick Trip Park location. Basically a little spot with a roof over it that we can, get some tourism brochures and whatnot. Have a place where visitors that are coming to town have a spot that they can go to see what else is in town and get them pointed off in some different directions. And we're seeing how we can best utilize some of our available tourism budget dollars to possibly work with the high school tech ed program to see if they can construct something like that for us to kind of stretch those dollars a little bit further. So that's just something that we're in the works on. And again, I know we haven't done tourism updates really to this point. So I just want to do a better job of kind of keeping the rest of the group up to date on the things that we're talking about in our tourism committee. And then I just wanted to, again, a reminder, I know Pat is here today, but Pat let us know that he was, this was going to be his last year doing the Waterfest and the flag. So we're kind of, it's best to start early, kind of getting that stuff lined up for next year. So we're still trying to see if anyone's got any suggestions, someone to take that over, or we're kind of scratching our heads on what to do moving forward as far as that goes. I just wanted to give everyone fair notice, on that. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
I did not ignore your request for the tourism committee report. I put it on the committee of the whole with the list.
Sure. That's fine. Thank you.
A little more correspondence. John Boston came in today. He said the water at City Park has been approved. It was tested, so it's good for drinking, cooking, whatever. And then he also contacted the DNR on copper culture. I think you had reached out to John on them wells. They have passed, and if they pass again within the next year, they will probably abandon them wells, so they will pull them out. So any other correspondence? Okay, moving on to number 8, approval of consent agenda. 8A, approval of invoice from Robert E. Lee in the amount of $21,192 for the wastewater treatment plant improvement. Any questions on that, or? Yes,
Are they the only company that can do this? Have we ever tried to source anyplace else that will possibly be cheaper now?
We do, we always bid that out for each individual project.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to know.
I don't remember what their full contract is on.
Couldn't tell you that off the top of my head, but
They were picked as the approved contract, and so these are like payments on that full contract. And this was the May payment that was going on.
yes, Jim.
I'll make a motion that we approve the invoice for Robert E. Lee.
Second.
Roll call?
Bob LaBrette,
Yes.
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Lori Stenstrup,
Yes.
Dan Zeller,
Yes.
Daryl Anderson,
Yes.
Dee Donlevy.
Yes.
Moving on to number 9, discussion, action, recommendation on the following. Full unfinished business, none. Moving on to 10, discussion, action, recommendation on the following new business. 10A, approval of purchase of wetland credits for the Spies Road reconstruction project in the amount of $47,530.
You have that invoice, it wasn't in your packet, you didn't have it yet, but it is on your desk now.
I'll make the motion to approve the amount of $47,530.
I'll second.
Motion in a second. Roll call?
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Lori Stenstrup,
Aye.
Dan Zeller.
Aye.
Daryl Anderson,
Aye.
Dee Donlevy,
Aye.
Bob LaBrette.
Aye. Motion carried to approve the invoice of $47,530 to DNR. 10B, approval of street closure request from form for Bellin Health second annual Bellin Health Kids Triathlon on August 11th, 2024. Have everything in place at this time, right, Cassie? So, they've contacted all the residents and so forth.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Riley,
Second.
second by Daryl. Roll call?
Lori Stenstrup,
Yes.
Dan Zeller,
Yes.
Daryl Anderson,
Yes.
Dee Donlevy,
Yes.
Bob LaBrette,
Yes.
Riley Soul.
Motion carried to approve 10B. 10C, recommendation from Oconto County or Oconto Utility Commission's approval of invoice from Robert E. Lee in the amount of $13,354.50 for wastewater treatment plant improvements. This is the June one, right?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
Dan Zeller,
Yes.
Daryl Anderson,
Yes.
Dee Donlevy,
Yes.
Bob LaBrette,
Yes.
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Lori Stenstrup.
Yes.
Motion carried for 10C. Moving on to 10D, recommendation from the Police and Fire Commission, approval of invoice from Chrysler World in the amount of $44,513 for the purchase of K9 squad vehicles. Do we have any questions for Dee?
This was previously budgeted for, I'm assuming?
This is, so we have to do some rearranging with squad cars because of the SRO position now being separate than the chief's position. So before I was doing both, and so I was using the chief's car for both. Now that it's separate, what Sergeant Shear did, and he has been doing a lot of work on this. The school paid for half of this squad car. I'm sorry, they paid for half of the SRO squad car. And then The other half came from my budget, which we paid them the canine budget for, which is completely, so this squad is completely paid for.
Any other questions for Kathy?
I'll make the motion to approve this for the new squad car, the amount requested.
Motion made by Lori,
Also.
second by Riley. Roll call vote.
Daryl Anderson.
Aye.
Dee Donlevy.
Aye.
Bob LeBrecq.
Aye.
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Lori Stenstrup.
Yes.
Dan Zeller.
Motion carried to approve 10D. Moving on to 10E, recommendation from Tourism Committee, creation of Tourism Commission.
I'll make a motion to create the tourism commission. Whoa. I want to discuss, during the discussion part, we'll discuss.
Okay.
I've got some handouts and some packets in my hand, so I'd like to hand these off right now, actually. Right, that's how it works, right? Motion, second, discussion.
Yes.
They don't want to do anything on the line.
We just haven't created the ordinance yet.
Right. Got one short on these, but I've got extra on these. Just a couple of notes on that we'll talk about. Oh, yes. Actually, you have. So our tourism committee has been, talking about this for a while. Basically, we're looking at what other cities are doing and have done. We understand we've got kind of a certain situation. Currently, we passed our room tax ordinance back in December. And we do have, OCEDC / TEGCOR, listed as our tourism entity. That being said, there's nothing that, currently, we've been giving over the 70% of the tourism funds to them. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. We looked at the town of Riverview, Algoma, and Stevens Point, and just kind of looked at their population and the percent of the room tax rate and the amount of revenues that came in from each of those municipalities. I know we had estimated ours, around that 10 or 11,000 for this first year, and we're kind of on track for that. I know the first quarter we were around 3,000. 2,000 of that went over to TEGCOR roughly. I anticipate we should exceed that if the first quarter we were already on track for that, and based on what some of these other cities have, especially when you look at what their population is and what their room tax rate is, it looks like the potential for our revenues could be significant. So I just want to be sure, and our committee wants to be sure that, especially if those revenues end up being a larger amount, that we're not necessarily just handing that 70% over without having significant oversight on how that money is spent and control over certain things, especially in lieu of not having the assistance for Waterfest to fly in. I know we're struggling with some of our parades and some of that stuff. Obviously, there's rules on how those monies can be spent, very specific rules on how they can be spent, and we've looked over a lot of the ordinances from the League of Municipalities and the frequently asked questions sections. We've reached out to other municipalities and Mayor Net, talked to them about what they've done. Mayor Superior as well. But my understanding is that currently we don't have a contract in place with TEGCOR. So even though we're currently giving them the 70% that's coming into us, it could be as little as $0 or $1. It could be the entire 70%. It could be a few thousand. We're already giving them a few thousand each year. So I want to just clarify that if we do make a change or if something happens, we're not taking anything away from them. In fact, we still could give them more than we currently are. It just would allow us to possibly have additional tourism entities as well. The town of, well, of the three, the town of Riverview, Algoma, and Stevens Point, basically, one of them turns over the 70% fully to their Chamber of Commerce. One of them keeps the 70% for their tourism commission, so they just get in there, the tourism commission kind of gets full oversight on that. And then one of them divvies it up where they basically give the smallest one, the 11,400, they basically named about 20 tourism entities, and they give each of their local clubs a $500 payment. So there's a number of different ways that you can do it. You can give it to several different tourism entities, you can break it up. You can keep it all for your tourism commission to just completely determine how that money is spent. Or you can turn it over entirely to an entity like TechCorp or the Chamber of Commerce or whatever entity that the city decides. So currently our entity is TechCorp, but again, there's nothing that mandates that all 70% of that has to go to them. And our tourism committee currently, we have no source of revenue at all. I mean, a lot of departments have revenue streams. You've got campgrounds, you've got harbor, you've got a way of getting money. Being on the tourism committee, we're sitting here basically beholden to what the council allots us for our budget. And in years past, that money has been virtually completely accounted for the minute that we got it. For example, last year was before we got that bumped up from 22,000 to 33,000. When it was 22,000, 16,500 went to Waterfest, and 5,500 went to Tunes on Tuesday. And our entire budget was basically consumed by two things. We did, thankfully, council granted us an increase of that budget to give us a little bit of wiggle room in our budget, but it still doesn't leave us any functional revenue stream. And we see this as a huge opportunity for our tourism committee or a future tourism commission. So basically, the money can't go to a committee. It has to go to a commission, like the utility commission, police and fire commission. Legally, there's a difference between the committee and the commission. So essentially what we're trying to do is if we can turn the committee into a commission or create a new commission, which would be appointed by the mayor, would have to be subject to approval by the council. But if we could get that commission, we could get a checking account, basically, for those 70% to be deposited into, and then the new tourism commission would have a heck of a lot more oversight on how those monies would be spent. And basically, as it is right now, we give that 70% away, so we gave 2,000 out of the first 3,000 that we got to TechCorp, but we don't really have any control on what they do with it or how they spend it. And sure, a very detailed contract may help that situation, but if we get a fifth of what Stevens Point is based off our population, we could be talking 200 grand here. And to be able to turn over potentially, I mean, we're a pretty big tourism town. If we got anything even close to that, but I'd hate to just turn over that kind of money to an entity without some significant oversight, or better yet, give it to the tourism commission and then we can decide, or the new tourism commission as the mayor appoints, can decide how those monies can be spent. And I see it as a body of minds is better than one or two people making all the decisions. Like right now, it goes to TechCorp, only a couple of people are making those decisions on how that money is spent. If we have a tourism commission, we've got some people that the mayor can appoint who can help make those decisions and direct how and when and where those monies are spent. We understand it can be a process to change some ordinances, change some things around. What we see is very much worth it in the best interest of the city to create this tourism commission so we can get this ball rolling and this process started to have that access to that new revenue stream. We've got a great group with our current tourism committee, and we've got a lot of ideas on how those potential monies could be spent. Again, there's lots of rules. You can't spend it on a lodge or a new hotel or something like that. There's specifics that go along with it, so we still have a lot more homework to do. But we really want to get this process started. would be nice to take some of that revenue and use it to generate even more revenue. I've put just a few ideas that we had kicked around. I saw that one of these communities, they spent over $17,000 on TV commercials through some pretty big companies. And an oversight on things like that, as these monies were in, we may be able to grow tourism significantly, and when more people come, more revenues come off these taxes. So we just see it as a wonderful opportunity. We don't want to take anything away from TAGCOR. TAGCOR isn't going to lose any money. It just gives us that oversight on that. If we built a visitor center, more of these kiosks that we're talking about throughout town, more infrastructure going. Maybe we could buy some golf carts instead of renting them, or increase our fleet. Things that will enhance and promote the tourism in our community. And we feel that a body of a commission would be able to brainstorm more ideas than just a couple of people at TAGCOR. So basically, we could also share these monies with other, like the Chamber of Commerce or any other tourism entities that may want access to some of these dollars. So in moving forward, as far as Waterfest and the fly-in and things like that, it'd be a really good opportunity for these dollars to use and pick up where Pat has left off. I would just love to see not only the new revenue stream, but again, those monies be used maybe to even generate even more revenue. So it's an incredible opportunity. It just started effective as the first of this year. Everything is brand new. We have a lot to learn, a lot to navigate. But this is an opportunity that I would hate to see missed. Megan, the vice chair of the tourism committee, she put together just a few slides for some more details. We have some more questions about that. Obviously, we'll have to be in touch with other communities that have done this, leading municipalities. Frank's gonna have to look into a lot of stuff and figure out what kind of ordinance changes may or may not be involved. And I know that Dee also did a lot of research. She's not on the committee, but she's been also helping support this idea. And I don't know if Dee, you have anything to add? Please.
Well, having COVID, I had a lot of downtime last week, guys, so I was able to jump in and make a few phone calls to help the committee out. So first of all, I reached out to Ryan, who is the Assistant General Counsel at the League of Municipalities, had a conversation with him saying, this is kind of something we're kicking around. We'd like to, have a conversation with our other municipalities that have done this before us. Can we glean some information from them to kind of learn what they did? So he did say, yes, there were, Mount Pleasant did, and also Superior, Wisconsin did. So I had a call into, and actually spoke with the mayor, Jim Dean, day before yesterday, and he kind of gave me the lowdown of kind of what they went through, and he said, the state statute is a bit convoluted, so you really have to kind of look at what you can and can't use those monies for. He said, so you really have to read through that thoroughly, and having a lawyer to help you with that is going to be substantial. He said they ran into the same situation that we are kind of dealing with right now with TAGCOR. He said the entity that they had contracted with, the legal contract, would not come back and give them any financials whatsoever. Again, they had no control over how the money was being spent, which we have asked TAGCOR to do to kind of tell us how are you spending our dollars? What percent is going where, for marketing versus whatever. So he said they tried and worked very hard with that entity, and he said for 6 years they revamped their contract. They absolutely refused to do it because it's so they pulled it. So then he said they ended up that was their decision to go from committee to commission. And he said, I said, well, is there any downsides to that? And he said, that no downsides. He said, it's been working wonderful. And again, the mayor puts the folks on the commission. And he had said that, let me see my notes here. He had said that they had gone to one of the entities that they now use as like their museum. Again, bring people in to invest monies into that. And like Riley said, there's different entities that you can do it. You just need to make sure the entity that you're working with has the marketing capacity. That's going to be a part of that they have to. And having the commission, you have to have somebody who is on the
hotel industry representative from there. There's some stipulations on what comprises that commission.
So I did ask him, and he said, I said, so how difficult was to make this transition? He said, honestly, it took me 3 weeks. He said, if you got your stuff in a row, He said, basically, if you have your account set up, which we already have a general ledger account, to kind of filter this money to the city, so we already have that there. He said you have to have an ordinance, which we have an ordinance, which would need to be revamped, obviously, this is the route that would go to. And then he said, if you so choose to develop a contract with your entity that you're working with. And he said, if you have everything ready to go, he said you can pull the trigger so they can do theirs in 3 weeks. So it's doable, you just need to, obviously, put the meat behind it to make it happen. So he did say that if we decide to have conduct conversations on this to go, he's more than happy to join a conference call and answer any questions that we may have. And he said, I'm sure we've gone through anything you guys are gonna run up against. He said, I can help answer questions, trying to get you through it. So I was appreciative of him offering to do that. So that's all.
Yes.
Thank you guys, that's great information. The statute does state that we need to have a commission, tourism commission, room tax commission, whatever we call it. And like Riley said, this money the statute does specify what you can and can't spend this on, which I think we need to do a little more research in, because the tourism committee might still need to exist if there are things that tourism is important, but the commission, the room tax money can't be spent on, but that would just take a little more taking into what that money can be spent on. And I would like to talk to our auditors about if the room tax money should go into its own separate funds, like the canines in its own separate fund, campgrounds in its own separate fund, as a way to track that, and that pool will always stay there, it won't ever go away. And the statute also does say that we have to work with the tourism entity if we have one in our municipality, which we obviously do. But you're right, we don't have to give them all the funds, but we do have to work with an entity. So I think there's definitely some more research that needs to go into this, what needs to go on committee, but I think we can do that fairly quickly.
Just one other comment, he had said that, you know, they had looked into working with their Chamber of Commerce, which I think our Chamber of Commerce would be applicable for that. He said as long as they have a marketing person to do that, a designated person to handle that marketing, so that could be an entity that you could work with. So, just an option.
I'm not gonna rush into anything until I see some dollar amounts. We don't even know what we're doing. The last time we said it was $4,400, 3% the city would have $1,320. Second of all, this thing has changed at least 3 times since the original one. There was supposed to be a commission. Was there not? Depending upon how much money you got from, there was 5 original cities up there. Gillette, O'Connell, Riverview, Mountain. And then it changed. I can't remember the 5th one, but there was 5. And then depending upon how much money you got out of your room tax, you're supposed to be a representative from the city. So if you got $200,000, you get 2 representatives. If you got $50,000, you got 1. It was way back when. When you can have it, just let me finish. I thought,
Yeah, keep looking. So,
this thing has changed at least 2, maybe 3 times. So is this a county or a city tax? I thought we were in, this was a county tax, was it not?
Originally, it was talked about as a
Originally, it was a county
county-wide
tax.
situation, but then it
Then it went
developed
to
to
a
just
city
city.
tax. Just secondary tax. So, I'm not gonna be rushing into anything. I think if you're gonna have you have a tourist community, that's great. If you want a tourist community, I think that's appointed with different people. I'm sorry, I've seen that tourism committee, basically, when everybody else is cutting the budgets and trying to get them down, a lot of the revenues is why. You know this, right? I believe tourism committee is $9,000 over budget. And you came and you asked that 10,000, so we gave it to be followed. But quite frankly, I want to see some fiscal responsibility out of that tourism. If you have a budget, live within your budget. Sometimes you can't get the amount that you want. Sometimes you have to say, well, this is a lesser amount. And I read a lot of this stuff here where buildings and everything, and I'll read your mission statement. And basically, the committee shall foster ideas to improve existing facilities and programs to attract tourists to our community. That purpose is to promote our various community attractions, encourage all community businesses and community organizations to participate and assist in sound development of our community facilities of our city, which is basically your parks, your businesses, your harbors, your campgrounds. So until I see something, I'm not gonna rush into it. If we have to separate it, make a tourism committee or tourism commission to use this one, that's fine. But I'm not gonna be rushed into it.
Yes,
Well,
Roger.
I don't know, I'm sorry if you misunderstood, but, it's clear that the mayor appoints the commission. So it would be a separate.
That's what I want.
Yeah, so
So,
that's, yeah,
We've got a lot of work to do before we
we would
start.
have to have a commission to be able to get involved. So that, but it does, it's, yeah, I don't think we can switch it. I think it's a
Well, I
reappointment.
just want to make sure that we understand there's probably gonna be two different entities, the commission and the committee.
okay, there was a question at the tourism committee about expenditures for the murals. So I asked for a report and I just got it yesterday. So I didn't make copies of it, but I will get copies and get it to the tourism. There is no money left there. January of 2023, there was, city put in $2,592. And then a DMO grant from TEDCOR that they applied for was $4,000 for the murals. So you had $6,592 to spend. And they actually spent $8,028 on murals. And I'm concerned about installation fee of $650 for the one on Roberts Hardware. I guess I'm not against the question, don't get me wrong. But I do have to, I gotta get a better feeling of how that money is gonna be handled, because basically on that murals budget, you went over by $1,436.
Was that the committee or was that TEDCOR that did it?
It's a TEDCOR deed. TEDCOR gave me $4,000, the city gave me $2,500. And then basically the tourist committee must have said, put them up. Yeah. So that if they did, we were already over budget.
So again, I'm not against it, we just gotta get our arms around some of this stuff like we've been talking. So, and I did have TEDCOR, which Jamie gave me a rough draft, I got it yesterday. I didn't even get a chance to share it with everybody. A rough draft of how they would propose using them tax dollars. So once she gets the final done, I will definitely publish it and give it to everybody to read, so we got more information on the whole situation. Yes, Steve?
I just want to clarify, Bob, so your concern was because it was, when it was initial county, there were multiple counties that were going to be involved with this?
There was multiple cities within the county.
Okay.
The original one, I believe, they found, Riverview Mountain and, what was it called?
So it's tourism zone, the tourism zone is what it was pitched.
Wait,
So now, if I understand correctly, that is no longer,
we changed it, but there's right here.
Just the city of Oakland. Go ahead.
The tourism zone, we could have chosen to bring in surrounding municipalities with us, and if they chose to have 8% like we have, they could be part of our zone, part of our, and then the commission would have each members of the zone. Because we were trying to just get this in place for the new year, we were running out of time to really reach out to them. They don't have city attorneys on staff. So we just decided, let's just do it with us so we can get this rolling, get this money start coming in, get everything in place that we need. And then down the line, if we want to invite them into our tourism zone and help them get on board, then we can at that time.
And that was part of what was, potentially Pensaki, Town of Little River, Town of Ocano, did we want to create? Because there are Airbnbs probably out into those municipalities. So then, then that commission has to include potential representatives there. But the sticking point too was up in Lakewood, and there, I think they're at, I don't remember, 5 or 6%.
Some are as low as 3%.
Whoever is in your zone and your group, you all have to do the same. And that was kind of, I think Gillette is one of the lower ones. So, from a county standpoint, that what was originally thought of wasn't really going to pan out.
Lori, you got
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So with TEDCOR, now, didn't the last council appoint them?
By ordinance, they are in the
Okay,
ordinance.
so they do have then a contract in place or they don't.
But the ordinance is a contract in
The
a
ordinance.
sense, but I think what he was referring to with the contract would be like specifically, what are you spending this on, what kind of control that more.
Okay, but that's who the old council chose, so they're
Yeah.
technically our representative, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another question that I have is on the tourism commission. So the money would go into tourism commission, then they elect how the money is spent out? There's no like, it comes to council to approve it, or does it still do that?
That would be the ordinance, right?
That would be
It'd
an
be set up by ordinance, and maybe it would help, just for clarification, if we talked about having a room tax commission
Okay,
versus a tourism committee. Just because it can get confusing, but
Okay.
that was one thing we talked, maybe it would be a room tax commission.
okay.
But that would be set up by ordinance on how they function.
And what my concern is here, if it's appointed where it's a commission.
One person at a time.
Whatever. What my concern is Ted Core is experienced, they have this knowledge of how to go forward, so I'm worried about normal appointees, people having that same experience. That's my little concern there. I'm not against it, that's where my concern lies.
One other thing, TEDCOR has not spent any of that room tax money at this point.
How do you know?
I was there, I asked her, she said, we have not spent any, because she said, we do not have any direction at this point from either the city or the tourism committee. So that's when I asked her, give me what your suggestions are for this room tax. Where would you spend it? How would you market the city for tourism? So like I said, I have a draft, I can send that draft to everybody. Or we can wait, she's supposed to have the final done by the end of this week. And then I can share it. And you guys can all read through it. And give me your ideas or whatever you want. Yes,
There is, reporting requirements with room tax to the state as well. So she needs to track every single dollar that goes in and out of the entity, because it needs to be reported to the state. I don't know if it's quarterly or annual, but there are reporting requirements.
I'll come back to you, but
How much money does the TEDCO get for doing this? Do they get a percentage of this 70%, or are we paying them to do this? So they're just handling it.
they're. At this point, again, there'll be more clarification once we get that report, because she will have, I said, whatever you're gonna do, you have to itemize, yes, sir, are you using 5% of that room tax money for administration fees, clerical, blah, blah, and on and on. So she is going to have that detailed in that, basically, she wants to submit for them to hang on and do this for us. So,
So what is the commission gonna do differently than TEDCO?
By statute, we need to have a commission. They work with the entity, with TEDCOR or with whatever entity, if that should change. But they work with the entity to make sure this money is being spent how O'Connell, representing O'Connell, how we want it spent. So they just work together, basically.
So we would still have, even though we have commission, we still have TEDCO.
or something similar.
Yeah, we have to work with an entity if your municipality has an entity.
And then who controls the money? Is it gonna be TEDCO or is it gonna be the commission?
The commission at that point.
So
I
what-
think we would adopt it in ordinance. And an example would be too, is that commission, in utilizing that 70% coming from the room taxes, could pay, maybe you would hire TEDCOR at X number of dollars. They could give X number of dollars to the Chamber of Commerce. You could give X number of dollars to some others. So again, doesn't have to be one entity that 70% goes to.
One of the entities could be the tourism committee.
So,
They could get a percentage of that. Yeah.
Again, depending
Yeah,
on how
yeah.
it's used, we just gotta be certain about how that money is utilized.
Riley was up for
Next.
something.
I guess, I get of trying to avoid the confusion between the tourism committee and the tourism commission. I guess I do have a bit of a concern just on, I've got several League of Municipality taxation FAQs, printed off right here, I'm happy to show you, but all of them reference tourism commission. It says, under the room tax law, tourism commission, every single line, it says tourism commission, tourism commission. I don't see anywhere where it says room tax commission, so I'm more comfortable with the tourism commission personally, based on what this League of Municipalities frequently asked question thing is all about. But there's several lines in here that were highlighted for us. Just want to read one or two of them here for you. The one at the bottom of this page for frequently asked question 13, it says, while a tourism commission must contract with a tourism entity or other organization to market the community to tourists, it need not forward all or any of the room tax revenue it receives to such establishments. We don't have to give them any. You can name them as your entity. You don't have to give them any. You don't have to give them all, which is what we're currently doing, is giving them all of the 70%. So we get 30% into the general fund, and 70% is going right to take part. And that's our concern, is we have no oversight on that. And this right here says we need not forward all or any of the room tax it receives. Now, I'm not saying we pull a plug on, but I'm saying it gives us the opportunity to disperse it, such amount to TIC or such amount to Chamber of Commerce, or all of it to this new commission. That's kind of up for us to decide. We just want to make sure that we're not just handing over potentially $100,000 to some entity that we really wouldn't have, other than whatever's in this future possible contract. It'd be nice to control those funds, as seeing as we have the right to control all of it if we want to. And that's what we're lobbying for, is that the city or this new commission have the right to control all of those funds. And if we want to give, or the new commission wants to give X amount to wherever, or the local clubs, or whatever, however they want to disperse it. So it just gives the city of Oconto more control over all of those tourism dollars instead of just handing them over. There's another one on the very last page on the frequently asked questions, number 15. It says, however, nothing in the room tax law suggests that a commission must exclusively contract with the existing tourism entity for tourism marketing services. The tourism commission's sole purpose is to use room tax revenues for tourism promotion and development. If the commission believes that the goal is best accomplished by working with other organizations in addition to the existing tourism entity for promoting the community to tourists, nothing in the law precludes it from making that decision.
Right, but it has to work with the entity in addition to.
Right.
Right.
We're not working with
Right.
Tech Core, we're never gonna stop working with Tech Core, we're already give them money, the county gives them money, they're well funded, they're not gonna go bankrupt because they didn't get all this money, they're gonna be okay. We just wanna be able to make sure that we're not just handing it all over to one place if we don't necessarily have to.
And speaking with Mayor Payne from Superior, I had said to him, what were your challenges that you had working with your entity? And he said they absolutely refused in their contract, they wanted specific things in their contract to say a certain percent of this money goes to admin, a certain percent goes to finance, a certain percent needs to be spent on marketing. And they absolutely refused to adhere to what they wanted to have in the contract, and that's when he said, we finally said enough, we're walking away. So I guess, to Riley's point, it gives you the opportunity to have those conversations to make sure those monies get spent where most benefits the city.
Bob, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Brittany, are you doing administration work right now for this?
No, Core does everything. We just deposit the check when we get it and then cut the 70% to them. They do all the reporting that they need to do. I guess the administrative side that I would do, we're trying to create a form for short-term rentals to the city, which is people who have room tax, this is what they do. They have to register with the city so we ensure that they're paying their fair share. That is still in the process and that is on me, so I guess that is administrative.
And I guess, because when the last administration was the last council, we basically voted to Ted Core, I believe voted for them to get 70% for administrative and promotion the city? And then we got 30%?
I would have to check on the details of that. And like I said, there's a lot more research that needs to go into this. It's not,
I'm just wondering, because basically we ran off of what Ted Ford told us in House administration. So basically, they said 70% was for promotion and administration, and 30% would go to the city. That's what I got. Like I said, it's been changing under time, so now it's more confusing than it should be.
yeah.
But, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to start a tourism commission, then I want it to be appointed by the mayor. I don't want to say you.
It is.
It should
It's
have,
by state statute, it is.
So basically, that's the only way I would vote, is if we have a commission that's appointed by the mayor.
yes, Brittany.
I would just, it's up to you guys, but I would like to do a little, I don't believe you on the tourism commission, Riley. It's just, I feel like it would be confusing for people if we have a tourism committee and a tourism commission. I think one would need to be renamed differently, but, if you vote on something, I mean, I think you should vote on, let's move forward creating a commission, for sure. And we can get more information out to you guys on what we can and can't do, and kind of what that ordinance will look like. So you guys can kind of have a starting point on what you want to change in that ordinance then to fit us, I guess.
So my motion was to create the tourism commission. We can always go back and try to change that later, but my motion is the same, create a tourism commission, just like it says in the League of Municipalities Frequently Asked Questions. I stand firm behind it, it needs to be called tourism commission. That was my motion. I've got a second on that. I think we should vote soon.
Well, again, I don't know what you're gonna vote on tonight because we don't have the ordinance created in order to pass this. You can pass a motion that says, I would like us to move forward, but you can't create a tourism commission tonight because we don't have the ordinance. It's not drafted.
So we're gonna-
What are we passing? I mean, we have to pass an ordinance to create this, and that's not drafted at this time.
Which makes sense to me to understand the language, right, of what needs to be in it.
How many people are gonna be in this? What is their duties? I mean, it's the same as looking at when we went back and we created the finance committee and the wage and personnel and put it back. It's an ordinance. How many are on there? How is this gonna be appointed? Are they all council people? Are they members of the public? How, I mean, it's all gotta be spelled out. Not to mention that we have to change the other ordinance that was put in place by the last council.
Maybe still just create the commission and, now, it doesn't have to take funds, because none of those details have to be worked out, but say, yep, a commission is gonna be appointed by the mayor. That's all it is, just
To do
saying
what?
we're gonna create.
You can't create something that isn't.
It has to spell who, how many, what are their terms on the, you know, staggered terms, how many people, what are their duties? I mean, it's all set forth. It's not any different than the public works.
So how do we phrase this, how do we move it forward, because you know what I want. Do I have to get it on the next agenda to create the tourism commission ordinance? Did I just miss one word on our agenda? Like, what needs to change to get this going?
He has a question first.
I guess I just have a comment. When I was talking to the mayor, he did send over to me a copy of the ordinance and a copy of, so I'm happy to forward that on to you guys so that you have that. And he said that, he did give me a cell number, so he said if anybody wants to reach out to him with any kind of questions, he's happy to answer to help out. So if that, at least helps us move forward a little bit, so hopefully.
I mean, if you're gonna, I would think your ordinance would have to be ready to have a draft ordinance for the commission for the next council meeting. I mean, that's doable, that's over a month away. So I think it would need to be that, to have a draft ordinance, and then you guys would say, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, this is what we want in this commission to look like.
I just remind you that, I mean, it took us 3 months to put back in place a finance committee and a wage and personnel committee and agree, you know, so, yeah, we've got kind of.
Did I amend my motion?
Hang on, Daryl's got, Daryl,
Well, I can say this, I'm in agreement with the mayor and Bob. I'm not against the commission thing, but I think there's more that needs to be looked at as far as being responsible, fiscally responsible with this whole deal, because I don't care if you're a commission or a committee, if you keep spending more money than what you got, you're not any good. It's plain and simple. If you spend more money than what you have, it's out of line. So until we have some proof that there's responsibility with this money, and we're not gonna be $2,000 over here or $10,000 over here at the end of the year, and then we're saying, can you find some more money? That's the way I look at it. I mean, you go shopping, if you've got $500 to spend, you ain't spending $1,000.
Well, to Frank's point, I think some of the things that you said that we have to kind of pull together is gonna be designated by the statute anyway, right? They're gonna tell us how many people should be on the commission, how many would be council versus citizens or whatever.
There's a statute says 4 to 6. So, 4, 5, or 6. You know, I mean, those
But I
are
mean,
what we're gonna draft.
right,
I would recommend 5, because you usually have a odd number, so you don't have a tie.
Riley, you want to do something with your motion here?
Well, I was asking if I could amend that motion to, be the creation of an ordinance for a tourism commission, a drafted ordinance.
Do we have a second on Riley's
I
amendment?
will second.
Second on the amendment. So you have to vote to allow that amendment.
On this ordinance also, I'd like to see an oversight by the committee, instead of just having free will on that
By
one,
the council, you mean?
by the council, yes.
Would that not go through finance? Or would that be the whole council?
I think
I think it would just be the
just
council.
the
It
council.
usually doesn't go from committee to committee to the council.
Just the council.
And you could set a dollar amount, kind of how department heads can spend up to $10,000. So you could do that too, if you're gonna spend over X amount. Whatever.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second.
So this is, Frank, correct me, this is the motion to amend the motion.
To
correct?
amend, so you're gonna vote at this time on whether to allow Riley with the second to make that amendment to his original motion. It's only to allow him to amend it.
Okay.
This is the first
And do
time.
you second it, correct? Okay.
It is.
Dee Dunlevy,
Yes.
Bob LeBrecq,
Yes.
Riley Soul,
Yes.
Lori Sensa,
No.
Dan Zeller,
Yes.
Daryl Anderson.
No.
Okay, so now you will vote on the amended motion. The amendment passed 4-2.
Okay, so you're voting on motion to create a draft for the tourism commission, correct? Okay. Bob LeBrecq, Riley Soul,
Yes.
Lori Sensa.
No.
Dan Zeller.
Could you repeat it?
Motion for creation of draft for tourism commission.
Yes.
Dan, Daryl Anderson,
No.
Dee Dunlevy,
Yes.
Mayor.
So this is just to create order.
Motion to create, for creation of draft for tourism commission.
Yes.
That will be in the ordinance. Yep, that will be in the ordinance.
Okay, moving on to 10F. Recommendation from the Finance Committee, approval of accounts payable for the month of June 2024 in the amount of $263,665.26, and payroll for the month of June 2024 in the amount of $176,959.52, and other financial reports as presented.
I'll second.
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Lori Sensa.
Aye.
Dan Zeller.
Aye.
Daryl Anderson. Dee Don Levy.
Aye.
Bob LaBrada.
Okay. Moving on to ten G, approval of World Migratory Bird Day Resolution for 2024.
I'll just explain that this resolution is needed to be passed every year. It needs to be associated with an event that promotes birds in the city, in order for us to stay a part of Bird City USA.
I make a motion to approve World Migratory Bird Day Resolution for 2024.
I'll second.
Lori Sensa. Aye. Dan Zeller.
Yes.
Daryl Anderson.
Aye.
Dee Don Levy.
Aye.
Bob LaBrada.
Aye.
Riley Soul.
Aye.
Moving on to item 11, council may vote at approximately 7:02 PM to convene into closed session pursuant to duly notice given and is allowed by Wisconsin Stats 19.85, Tier 1, Tier G, of conferring with legal counsel for the following items. Building inspector, superintendent of public works, and ongoing issues at 116 Gilbert Way.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried to go into closed session.
Great points.
Right.